Have you ever deposited a check just by snapping a picture with your phone? It feels so normal, right? Almost effortless. But behind that simple tap is this incredible story, a quiet revolution in law, logistics, and, this is the really cool part, the very definition of data. It's a huge piece of database history hiding in plain sight. So let's get into it. How did a physical piece of paper become pure digital information?
Okay, to really wrap your head around this, you have to understand the old way. I mean, it's kind of wild. For decades, every single check had to take a physical journey. We're literally talking about fleets of trucks, cargo planes, couriers, a whole massive physical network just to move tiny slips of paper around the country. And the new way? Poof. All of that is gone, replaced by a digital pipeline, just scanners, servers, and streams of data.
And look, this wasn't just some small inconvenience. It was a massive logistical nightmare. I mean, think about it. Processing billions of checks this way. It was ridiculously expensive, it was so slow, and every single step of that journey, right, from the sorting facility to the cargo plane, was another chance for something to get lost, damaged, or just delayed. It was basically a data processing problem that we were trying to solve with trucks and planes. It was nuts! So what did that mean for you and me? Well, it meant your money was basically stuck in limbo. You deposit a check, and you couldn't touch that money for days, sometimes even a week or more. And why? All because that little slip of paper had to physically get on a plane and fly across the country to the other person's bank to get cleared. It's crazy to think about now. All right, so the first piece of the puzzle, the first breakthrough, came from technology. It was check imaging. And the idea on the surface sounds super simple, right? Instead of moving the paper, why don't we just move a picture of it? But the real genius, the part that changed everything, was the next step. How do you turn that picture into a structured record? A clean packet of data that a computer can actually read and process all on its own. And the process for doing this is actually pretty elegant. First, you scan the check front and back. Simple enough. But step 2, the tagging part? Well, that's where the real data magic happens. This is the moment you pull out all the key information, the account numbers on that weird magnetic ink line, the check amount, and you attach it as structured metadata. Then, and only then, do you send the whole digital package off. And it's so important to get this. This digital file is way more than just a picture, like a JPEG. It's a rich, self-contained data object. It's often bundled into what's called an image cache letter, or an ICL. So inside this one file, you've got the scans, all that machine-readable data, the dollar amount, and a complete time-stamped audit trail. We're talking about the creation of a brand new, standardized data type for the entire financial world. So, the technology is there, banks can create these amazing structured data packets, everything's ready to go. But they hit a wall, a huge one. And it wasn't a technical wall, it was a legal one. The entire financial system, all the laws, were built around one core idea. The original physical piece of paper is the only thing that matters. So the tech was ready, but the law basically said, nope, your digital copy is just a copy. It's not the real thing. And that brings us to the billion-dollar question, the one that stopped everything cold. Was a digital copy, a bunch of pixels and metadata, essentially a row in a database, was that legally the same thing as the paper check with the real ink signature? And for years, the answer from the legal system was a flat, frustrating no. Well, the turning point finally arrived in 2003. It came in the form of a landmark piece of legislation, the Check Clearing for the 21st Century Act. But pretty much everyone just calls it by its much catchier name, Check 21. So what was so special about Check 21? It did one incredibly powerful thing. It said that a substitute check, which could be a special printout or, crucially, the digital image file itself, was now the legal equivalent of the original paper check. That was it. That was the key that unlocked the entire system. A digital record now had the same legal power as the physical one, and that gave banks the green light they needed to finally ground the planes and start sending data instead. And what happened next? Well, with that legal barrier just gone, the floodgates just blew wide open. The entire system got re-architected almost overnight. We saw this explosion of speed, incredible cost savings, and a level of convenience for you and me that would have sounded like science fiction just a few years earlier. Just think about the ripple effect. Suddenly, getting your money from a check went from taking days to just a few hours. All those insane costs for trucks and planes, they just vanished. Fraud detection got way smarter because now you could run algorithms across huge databases of check images. And trying to find an old check,
It went from a nightmare of digging through dusty boxes to a simple database query. Click, and there it is. But for most of us, the biggest change, the one we actually see and use, was this: remote deposit capture. Yep, taking a picture of a check with your phone. The Check 21 Act is the only reason that works. It's the law that turns your smartphone camera into a bank teller. It's what makes that photo you take not just a picture, but a legally binding financial instrument.
So when you really step back and look at the whole story, it's so much more than just swapping trucks for servers, right? It's about fundamentally redefining what a check is for the digital age. It's just a perfect example of how technology can be ready to go, but it takes the law catching up to really unlock its power. Because after Check 21, the very identity of a check shifted. It stopped being a physical thing. It became a packet of data, a secure, instantly verifiable, machine-readable packet of data. It was now native to the world of databases, and that meant you could plug it into automated systems, analyze it for fraud patterns, and store it perfectly forever.
Yeah, this really sums it all up perfectly. Moving to check imaging wasn't just about scanning and sending a picture. It forced banks to totally transform their internal workflows. It meant they needed new kinds of databases to handle all this new information. And at the deepest level, it actually changed the legal definition of a check itself. It really makes you think, doesn't it? The check went from being a physical object you hold in your hand to a pure data packet that moves at the speed of light. And it all happened because a law finally caught up and said the digital version is just as real as the paper one. So when you look around at all the other physical things we rely on, things like paper contracts, property deeds, even physical IDs, you just have to wonder, what's going to be the next thing to become pure data?